oil is sentient. It starts wars to feed off humanity, to feed off you, to cause the apocalypse.
At least it does according to the book Cyclonopedia by Reza Negarestani in 2008. Allegedly. Because for several years, a non-zero number of people thought genuinely that Reza Negarestani wasn't a real person. But let's put a pin in that.
It's not just a boulder, it's a rock!
Negarestani is an Iranian philosopher who was born in 1977 in Shiraz, Iran. He grew up during the aftermath of the Iranian Revolution and the Iran-Iraq War, which meant his childhood wasn't exactly quirked up teenager who discovers Camus and gets a penchant for smoking, like you. It was rationing, air raids, blackouts, political restrictions, religious pressure, and the feeling the future wasn't exactly assured. He and his sister didn't have enough money to buy toys, but he could buy books. So he did! A lot! Persian folklore, Russian science fiction, French fairy tales, and philosophy! A lot of that last one. In the early 1990s, he found a collection of Deleuze, Bataille, and Foucault, and apparently thought, wow, this is deranged. Yippee! By the early 2000s, the internet becomes crucial for the budding Negarestani. Suddenly, there's pirated PDFs, occult forums, para-academics talking about his favorite cognito philosophers, and this is where he enters the broader ecosystem of post-CCRU theory. Now, Negarestani is not one of the original Warwick CCRU people in the 1990s, but was part of the post-CCRU internet atmosphere. Think hyperstition, apocalypticism, Lovecraftian horror, cybernetics, occultism, douce and speculative realism. Yet, this would come at a cost to the young kiddo, as his family would expect him to become a doctor or an engineer. But he really wanted a useless degree instead. So while studying systems engineering, he'd secretly hide philosophy books in his textbooks and read those instead. Now, this is actually relevant, because Cyclonopedia is not written like an actual novelist wrote it. Negarestani would write it like an engineer, not a novelist, and would come to write what would be pioneer in the genre of theory fiction, a genre that blends speculative philosophy with narrative fiction. To give you a quick vibe of the general book, imagine Negarestani took Gilles Deleuze, H.P. Lovecraft, and a Middle Eastern version of the Da Vinci Code and smashed them together to make something that would scare you the same way that H.P. Lovecraft was scared of the ocean, minorities, and people that make less than $56K a year.
For me, nature is one of the neatest things on this planet.
The book itself begins with a woman named Kristen Alvinson. Why the does she have this name? The book itself begins with a woman named Kristen Alvinson flying to Istanbul to meet with a mysterious online man who does not show up. She checks into the hotel room and decides to get completely trashed and spills wine under the bed. While cleaning, she finds a totally unassuming and non-mysterious box. As all good horror novel protagonists do, Kristen opens the box to find a manuscript titled Cyclonopedia. Wonder where this is going. It's covered in strange notes, markings, strange diagrams, references to oil, war, demons, archaeology, Islamic theology, and what appears to be found notes from a totally not government disappeared university professor named Dr. Hamid Parsani. To speedrun this, oil is alive and kind of like an eldritch god. The Middle East is a machine, and humans its unknowing puppets. Cyclonopedia treats petroleum, which he calls Tellurian Lube, not as an extractable source, but as an active force shaping politics, religion, war, capitalism, and history. Like a machine, oil is a substance that makes global events slide into one another. Oil lubricates capitalism. Oil lubricates war. Oil lubricates religious apocalypse. Oil lubricates geological apocalypse. Oil is not just something that humans extract. Oil extracts humans. And humans are the means to the Tellurian Omega, the apocalyptic return of the Earth to the Sun. Before Dr. Parsani got Epstein, he became obsessed with the idea that everything relates back to petroleum. He tracks it through all these artifacts and history and religious references, all Name of the Rose style, and connects that oil is an ancient subterranean intelligence, dragging the planet into complicity with its own decomposition. Now this is really dumb, cause it's fiction! But it's actually really cool if you take it to dissect the geopolitics. Because what Negarestani is really doing is taking oil's geopolitical function and turning it into cosmic horror. Cyclonopedia's bacterial archaeology suggests that digging releases something into the present. The past never safely dies. It is particulate. It seeps into the air. Returns as dust, fog, weather, infection, remains, relics, dead civilizations, demons. Because history is not safely behind us. It infects you as you breathe. It possesses you. You cause wars because you've become the dust's newest meat puppet. You track dust all over your house. And when you die, you'll find a new host. In this book, the machine's not just a battlefield. It's kind of a Deleuzian war machine. Populations are military collectives. Individuals are carriers. Negarestani makes a comparison between how war possesses us like John Carpenter's The Thing. It imitates you until it becomes indistinguishable. Think Abd al-Salam Faraj's extremist manifesto, Jihad, the Absent Obligation, Taqiyya, insurgency, hidden ways and collectives, things that sneak through the political apparatus. And war does this to make sure it contaminates you, to keep itself living, like a primordial cosmic parasite. It uses you to perpetuate its own existence in an eternal, circular way. There's also this whole thing about, like, decay and radical paranoia and Tellurian insurgencies. You could go into the logistics of how the Earth wants to unalive itself into the sun through all these complex clues you figure out through reading the book, but the script is like already stupid long, and I don't really feel like explaining Zoroastrianism or Islamic eschatology. So just like read the book. It's actually really good. I highly suggest it, especially if you like moments where you're like, what is going on? But then you're kind of piecing things together and you're like, oh god, what? But if you want me to do a video on just the book, I'll leave a comment down below. Yeah.
What will you learn? That your actions have consequences!
But to put a cap on the book, let's return to the title. Cyclonopedia, Complicity with Anonymous Materials. Because that's a self-report, but specifically for you, the reader! The book references hidden entities, oil, dust, demons, war, but it's saying that you're already complicit. Your car, your government, your supply chains, the media you consume, your online comments, your apocalyptic fantasies, they're already covered in oil. You're already complicit. Negarestani creates this paranoia in you as you read, and it's really effective in making you analyze the general situation in the Middle East, especially as it relates to back in 2008, but even more so as it relates to current events now.
You fool!
But back to that pin! For a while, Negarestani's public identity was obscure enough that people could actually half seriously speculate whether or not he was fictional. Famously, his editor, Robin McKay of Urbanomic, joked Reza Negarestani doesn't exist during the release of his book, which is kind of fair, considering he came from a war-torn country and all in wanted anonymity. But this was, of course, prime fodder for the theory nerds who were reading about Middle Eastern demons and went, ooh, how oriental! And then made him into, like, the Iranian life form. But surprise, he actually exists! This is him.
Hello, everyone!
And Negarestani has moved pretty far away from his style of writing since. It's actually a huge proponent of autodidacts, and also has done his best to renounce any influence he got from the CCRU. To quote him on a CCRU member that influenced him in the 2000s...
On the other hand, is a self-conscious stylist. His industrially crafted libidinal prose is less a product of a harbinger of semantic apocalypse who wages an all-out war against meaning, or inadvertent stylistic overexcitement, than it is a mundane yet effective mobilization of style to recruit the impressionable and those who are tired, rightly so, by stale and intellectually frustrating philosophy. But beneath the facade of this titillating, libidinally charged and insinuating prose lies a philosophically and politically conservative writer whose ideas of cybernetics and complexity haven't advanced since the 1970s, whose brand of social Darwinism as cosmological laws can be effectively debunked by an undergraduate in physics, and whose idea of the will to think is no more than a mere liqueur over petty psychological fixations.
To simplify, dense writing is used to recruit those who are impressionable and those who are tired of crusty, dusty, old philosophy. But underneath, the writer is a 1970s chud who uses social Darwinism in a way that can be debunked by a physics undergrad student. Since then, Negarestani has been writing other pretty famous work, like Intelligence and Spirit in 2018, which is basically kind of stylistically the exact opposite of Cyclonopedia. Here, he comes up with arguments on how to define intelligence, taking into account both humanism and post-humanism through the lens of Hegel's Geist and Kant's transcendental psychology. I'm losing you. Yeah, we're pretty in the weeds. But needless to say, he has a few thought experiments in there that are pretty interesting as it pertains to what it might be like to live with post-human intelligence, AI, and how we currently might live in its prehistory. But that's above my pay grade! At least for now. But as of late, Reza Negarestani has been chilling as the director of critical philosophy at the New Center for Research and Practice in New York. And though he kind of cringes at his old work, Cyclonopedia has been listed as one of Artforum's best books in 2009 for a reason. Because it takes a lot to make the entire concept of oil scarier than getting no-clipped. It's about slowly understanding the conspiracy. But by the time that you do, you realize you're already one of its materials.